You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Maligro, Puma Podcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka. We're approaching another pivotal moment for the Philippines. In May, millions of Filipinos will head to the polls to choose the policymakers who will shape our nation's future. Lawmakers in the House and Senate craft the laws that guide us forward, while local officials have the power to strengthen and transform communities. On Bago Ang Lahat, another Puma Podcast program, Kat Ventura shines a spotlight on the inspiring life and career of Jessie Robredo. As the visionary mayor of Naga City and a dedicated interior secretary, Robredo championed good governance and public service. Tune in to hear more about his inspiring legacy.
Anong alam mo tungkol kay Jessie Robredo?
Well, sa lugar namin sa Naga, kilala siya bilang kasama mo talaga sa paglilinis pagkatapos ng mga bagyo. Sabi nga nila, nakatsinelas pa siyang nagwawalis sa Magsaysay Avenue. And kilala rin siya sa pag-establish ng unang peace zone at ng unang People's Council sa Pilipinas.
Pero ngayon, lalo pa natin siyang kikilalanin sa tulong ng dalawa niyang biography. Ang Jessie Robredo, His Story, na isinulat ni Crisel de Yabes, at ang Jessie M. Robredo Memorial Book na isinulat ng Presidential Communications Development and Strategic Planning Office noong 2012.
At may makakasama rin tayong special guests today.
I'm Josephine Robredo Bundok. I'm a physician with specialty in rehabilitation medicine. Pero much of my practice is towards advocacy for pushing policies, community-based directed programs for people with disabilities. Si Jessie ay ang aking older brother.
Hello, I'm Nina Rances. I'm currently the Dean of the Ateneo de Naga College of Law. I'm one of 3 young people who served as Secretary Robredo's executive assistants.
Thank you for joining us on the show, Doc Penny at Attorney Nina. I think to know Jessie Robredo, kailangan muna natin pag-usapan ang kanyang hometown, his beloved Naga City. Pwede niyo ba kaming bigyan ng virtual tour ng lungsod na kinalakhan niyo?
Okay. So ngayon, makikita mo yung progress sa Naga in a sense na meron na siyang mga magagandang mga buildings. Dati wala masyadong matataas na buildings dito. Meron na rin siyang mga malls. Marami ding ng call center. At meron na rin traffic yun ngayon. Pero simple pa din. Simple pa rin yung pamumuhay dito. Kahit merong traffic, you can go anywhere in mga maximum 15 minutes. Maliit lang masyado yung Naga.
Nakakamiss nga naman talaga ang travel time sa Naga. Para sa mga listeners natin, ang Naga ay ang sentro ng probinsya ng Camarines Sur. Napapaligiran ito ng mga bukirin at noong lumalaki si Jessie, nakasalalay ang ekonomiya nito sa agrikultura.
Home for Jessie, his parents Jose and Marcelina, and his siblings Butch, Jocelyn, Jean, and Josephine was a 2-story house with a 1960s retro style. Pangalawa sa magkakapatid si Jessie, was born on May 27, 1958. They lived next door to their cousins in the same family compound. Jessie's grandfather had come from China at the turn of the 19th century. Their original Chinese name was Lim Pai Ko, and it was changed to Robredo when an elder Lim Pai Ko was baptized. Let's go back to Jessie's childhood. Kasama ng kuya niya, nag-aral siya sa Naga Parochial School for primary schooling. Tapos sa Ateneo de Naga naman for secondary education. Di tulad ng mga pinsan nilang nag-aral sa Chinese schools, ang magkuya, well, sabihin na natin, pinalaki ng mga pare. And it was Father James O'Brien, an Irish-American Jesuit who spoke Bicol fluently, who taught Jessie to love Bicol, think Bicol, and learn Bicol.
There's an anecdote nga po in the biography from Jessie's high school teacher, Gregorio Abonal, at kilalang kwento rin to sa amin. Nagkaroon daw no ng chess tournament. Tapos, yung kalaban ni Jessie is yung champion ng school. Yung opponent niya late. So, Jessie was automatically declared the winner. Pero, di pumayag si Jessie. Gusto niya tuloy yung laban. So, Mr. Abonal said, he scolded Jessie daw. Are you crazy? You've already won. But, ang sagot ni Jessie, Sir, para fair. Patas lang daw kasi yung laban kung magharap ang dalawa across the chessboard. And the result was a tie. Jessie wanted to give people a chance.
Uy, pero si Jessie hindi martira. Actually, pikon talaga siya pagdating sa games. And his siblings just loved riling up the small and chubby boy. Totoo po ba to, Doc Penny?
Oo, definitely. Actually, ang dami nagtataka. Ganun ba siya? Kaming tatlong girls kasi, we gang up on him. Kasi yung other brother ko, di ba, is visually impaired. Parang siguro, hindi ko alam kung sinabihan siya ng papa at mama or tinake in niya na lang yung responsibility to look after us. So he was actually very protective sa amin kasi girls nga kami. Kami naman, syempre, at that age, para bang, sabi na, ano ba naman to? Kasi alam mo, bawal sa kanya mag-spaghetti strap.
Grabe, ang strict naman ni Kuya.
Yes, maraming beses na nakabihis na kami, papalitan niya. Sabi na, ano ba? So he was so protective, very strict. Tapos yung mga nanliligaw, lalo na yung eldest sister ko is a lot older than him. Pero talaga, kahit yun, yung mga nanliligaw, ang gagawin niya pag may manliligaw sa kapatid kong eldest sister, maglalaro yan ng basketball. Tapos patatamain niya yung bola dun sa window. Para yung glass panel ba, tutunog, ganyan. And then, pag magka-boyfriend na kami, kunyari ako, yung boyfriend ko, first time silang nag-meet, hindi nga shinake yung kamay. So talagang noon talagang galit na galit kami sa kanya, galit na galit kami. Later na lang namin na-realize na baka it fell on his shoulders na he has to be responsible for us.
Mm-hmm. Aww.
Oo nga, Kat. May dahilan naman pala yung pagiging seryoso ni Kuya Jessie.
So, pinag-usapan natin ang kabataan ni Jessie at ang syudad kung saan siya lumaki. We touched upon his closeness with his family as well as the struggles they had to face as a unit.
And when it came to his studies, lagi siyang nasa honor roll. Demanding ang tatay nila. Para kasi kay Jose, there is no place for second honor. Only first honor.
And by the time college rolled out in 1974, lumuwas siyang Maynila para mag-aral sa De La Salle University. He was 16 years old. Nakitira siya sa bahay ng tito niya, si Luis Villafuerte, na congressman at that time. And Luis would later make Jessie his protege.
After 6 years, Jessie would graduate with 2 degrees, one in mechanical engineering and another in industrial management engineering. Bigatin! Siyempre, malaking kumpanya ang pinasukan niya after. Nagtrabaho siya sa San Miguel Corporation where he worked with all sorts of people when he was assigned first in Manila, then La Union, and then Cebu. With his duties in logistics and physical distribution, he learned to deal with managers, warehouse employees, and labor leaders alike. He made an effort to build relationships, from organizing a basketball tournament to attending the wakes of his co-workers' relatives. At San Miguel, it was all about product excellence, and this environment was very influential to Jessie.
At the same time, Jessie was taking up his master's in business administration at the University of the Philippines. Biro mo yun, after his night classes once a week, he would take the bus from Diliman campus in Quezon City to La Union, where he'd been assigned by San Miguel. He would usually arrive at midnight but would always report for work the day after.
Nag-pay off naman ang pagpupursige niya. In 1985, when he was 27, he graduated top of his class and was awarded for scholarly excellence. But Jessie also managed to squeeze in his political participation. With his co-workers, he joined rallies and noise barrages against the Marcos dictatorship, especially after the assassination of opposition leader and Senator Ninoy Aquino in 1983. Nakilahok siya kahit ang kumpanyang pinagtatrabahuhan niya mismo ay pag-aari ni Eduardo Cojuangco na isang Marcos crony. When the Marcoses fled after the EDSA People Power Revolution in 1986, Jesse and his cousin went to Malacanang to see the riches that had been left behind.
Upon the restoration of democracy, bumalik sa Naga si Jesse. He was on the path to government service. Guided by his uncle Luis Villafuerte, he became director of the Bicol River Basin Development Program, or BRBDP.
Bagong ahensya ito. Ang trabaho nila, magplano ng infrastructure sa Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon at Catanduanes. Kasama na rin dito ang pagpapatayo ng bridges at dams at pagpapatupad ng irrigation projects. Ito ang pinakamalaking programa para sa Bicol region at the time.
At BRBDP, Jesse was a demanding boss. He wanted his employees to perform well. At unti-unti na siyang nagkaroon ng reputation for being an innovator and a man of action. There was one important incident that showed the kind of person that he was. Doy Laurel, the Vice President of the Philippines lang naman, wanted to appoint the nephew of his ally as Jesse's deputy. But Jesse believed that the person wasn't qualified for the job and that he needed engineering skills. Sabi ni Gabby Bordado na information officer at the time sa BRBDP, nagulat daw siya. Quote, "Kung nasa politika ka, the best thing to do is to say yes. At that time, anybody could be removed." End quote.
Tinanggihan ni Jesse ang isang politikong mataas ang posisyon. So the potential appointee was named director. Pinalitan nila si Jesse. Pero si Jesse, hindi nagpatinag. The employees were on his side too. The police, led by the provincial commander himself, went to the BRBDP to enforce the appointment order. 6 na araw na nagbarikada sina Jesse at ang mga empleyado nito sa opisina nila. Doon na nga sila natulog eh. Sabi ni Gabby Bordado, that was the defining moment for Jesse. Pinakita niya na magaling siyang leader. Hindi niya ginawa what is expedient. Dinala ni Jesse ito sa korte at nanatili siya sa pwesto ng 1 pang taon.
Pero, hindi ang insidenteng ito ang pinakamalaking nangyari nung nasa BRBDP si Jesse.
Yung August 18, ano yun? August 18, 1986, yun yung first day of work ko. Kung saan si Jesse yung aking boss.
Yan ang tinig ni Vice President Leni Robredo sa kanyang vlog on YouTube. At that time, she was an economics graduate. In fact, nagkasabay nga sila sa UP pero hindi nag-cruise ang landas nila. Sa BRBDP, nagtrabaho bilang researcher si Leni. 7 taon ang tanda ni Jesse sa kanya. At ang kwento ni Leni sa biography, kinakantsawan na ako ng division namin na parang si boss interesado sa'yo kasi dati hindi naman yan umaakyat parate. Pinapatawag lang sa baba yung gustong kausapin. Jesse even sent her a telegram under a pen name. Ang mensahe niya, "I wish the circumstances would have been different." Wow!
Grabe, may pa-forbidden love. But you know, a month after Leni started working at the BRBDP, Jesse asked her out. Nagpunta sila sa isang UP Concert Chorus benefit para sa Peña Francia Shrine. At nung Sunday na yun mismo, pinakilala na ni Jesse si Leni sa pamilya nito.
Wow! Hindi naman siya excited, no? Agad-agad talaga.
Ganyan talaga, Kat, pag love at first sight. And by October, a month after their first date, sila na. Agad-agad. By December, Jesse already wanted to ask for her hand in marriage. Mapapasana all ka na lang talaga. At ang sagot ng tatay ni Leni, syempre, hindi pwede. Hindi ko yan haharapin. Nagkakakilala pa lang kayo. At ang kwento ni Leni sa biography, araw-araw nang nasa bahay. Kaya nung ayaw pa ng daddy pumayag, sabi ng nanay ko, payagan mo na kasi araw-araw na nandito. It was a whirlwind romance. So by June 1987, not even a year after they met, kasal na sila. . 'Di
siya yung sentro ng buhay namin. Nagpapaalaga talaga. Medyo demanding siya sa time and attention. Siya naman, binabawi niya naman ito sa hindi pag-asikaso pero pag-shower sa amin ng pagmamahal. Pag nasa bahay siyang tutok na tutok ako sa kanya, nakakompensate yon sa pagiging supportive niya sa ginagawa ko. Sa pagbibigay sa akin ng peace of mind. Trabaho, bahay siya Wala, hindi umiinom, walang kabarkada. Yung kabarkada niya ako.
They would have 3 children together, Aika, Trisha, and Jillian. But Jesse was not only the father of these 3 children, he is the father of Naga City. Jesse ran for his first term in 1988. Hindi sang-ayon si Lenny dahil ayaw niyang lumaki ang mga anak nila na feeling entitled dahil may pwesto ang ama nila. Pero nangako si Jesse na hindi niya hahayaan na mangyari ito at na magiging involved pa rin siya sa pagpapalaki ng kanilang mga anak. At totoo nga, stage father si Jesse. Sabi ni Lenny, andun siya para sa tutoring sessions ng mga bata, sa musical recitals nila, at mga sports competitions.
But back to the mayoral race of 1988. Doc Penny, in-expect niyo po bang papasok ang Kuya Jesse ninyo sa politika?
Oh no, never. Kasi nga sabi namin, pikon. Di ba yung politics, ang pikon talo? So we were actually all surprised kung bakit siya tumakbo as mayor at that time.
Bukod pa doon, hindi siya kilala. Humiram si Jesse sa tatay niya ng 2 jeep para sila mag-ikot sa Naga at mangampanya. Sa isang debate, binanggit niya ang plano niyang i-develop ang syudad bilang city in the fields.
Hindi mahilig sa debate ang kalaban niya at minaliit lang siya. Naging maganda ang performance ni Jesse dito. At sa susunod na debate, lalo pa siyang nagpakitang gilas. In the end, he won by just a little over 900 votes.
Attorney Lina, you spent your growing up years with him as your mayor. What was he known for?
Siya yung isa sa pinaka-magaling naming mayor sa Naga. I think if I'm not mistaken, siguro mga 19 years siya nag-serve as mayor. He started really young. And at that time, ang pagkakaalam ko, sobrang backwater pa nung Naga. Pero yung Naga, siya yung medyo naging famous, more or less, dahil siguro sa mga pagbabagong nangyari. Si Jesse Robredo, kasi napakasimple niyang tao. Pag nakita mo before yung City Hall namin, hindi siya maganda. Minsan lang siya ma-repaint and all. And I'm so proud of this noon growing up. Feeling ko yung Naga, hindi siya pretentious na city na trying to look modern. Pero yung mga tao niya, sobrang gagaling. Sobrang progressive mag-isip. Hindi mo yun makikita sa labas na pang-anyo ng Naga. Kasi I think yung at that time, mas pinaprioritize talaga yung mga social services na para sa mga tao. And kahit naman actually siguro ngayon, mataas pa rin yung poverty, but it's really because of how we're placed geographically. Kami yung parating sinasagasaan ng bagyo.
Given the hazards po that Naga faces, paano ni Mayor Robredo inihanda ang mga tao?
Meron kaming local na weatherman, tapos more or less siya yung nagturo sa amin kung paano namin malalaman kung saan na papunta. At talagang tinatrack namin yan. And then right after ng bagyo, makikita mo kami lahat. Kasama si Mayor Jesse. Nagtatanggal ng mga mud waters, nagtatanggal ng mga fallen branches.
Grabe. Ito pala ang leadership by example. Ito talaga yung sinasabi nilang walang iwanan.
Angela, di ba madalas ang expectation natin? Kapag pumasok ng politika ang isang tao, giginhawa ang buhay ng pamilya niya.
Yup, that's pretty much the status quo. And at worst, yayaman sila ng di ayon sa kinikita nila bilang government employee.
Pero yun na nga ibahin mo si Jesse Robredo. Ang joke nga, dahil inuna niya talaga ang constituents niya over his family pagdating sa public service, yung kalsada sa Barangay Tabuco, kung nasaan ang bahay nila, ay ang pinakahuling kalsadang pinasemento niya. Akalain mo yun?
Kawawa pala yung mga kapitbahay nila.
Oo nga, kawawa. Malas yung kapitbahay nila. At hindi exempted ang mga kapamilya niya sa mga reformang ginawa niya sa Naga. For example, when Jessie moved the bus terminals out of the old Central Business District para mag-expand ang economic zone sa Naga, nagsara ang grocery na pinagtatrabahuan ng kapatid nitong si Jean.
Kinuha ni Jessie ang mga aplikanteng matatalino, matitino, mahuhusay at matatapat para magtrabaho sa City Hall. Pinagkatiwalaan din niya ang mga kabataan dahil mayroon daw silang fresh vision. Ang isa rito ay si Nathan Serio na itinakda niyang tutukan ang urban poor. Noong panahong yon, 20% ng Naga population ay informal settlers. Ang ginawa ng LGU, tinulungan silang magkaroon ng running water, ng kuryente, pati na rin ng mga footbridge at daanan sa kanilang mga lugar. Ang gobyerno ang nagbigay ng mga materyales at ang mga residente naman ang nagsilbing labor. Sa huli, 8,000 lote ang na-distribute sa mga residente. May permanenteng tirahan na sila.
Ang isa pang mahalagang ginawa ni Mayor Robredo ay ang pag-organisa ng Naga People's Council. Attorney Nina, ano po ito?
Yung Naga City People's Council, isa siyang konseho made up of different NGOs and sectors. Halimbawa, yung mga PWDs, women, farmers, lahat sila may boses sa amin. Naniniwala kasi kami, una si SecJess, na-influence na lang din kami, na dapat lahat may boses. At magiging maganda lang yung mga ordinansa or yung mga policies kung lahat na consult. Kasi minsan pag nasa taas, hindi naman sila minsan yung nakatutok sa ground. Baka hindi naman nila naiintindihan kung ano yung mga nararanasan ng mga ibang tao. That's why very important sa amin na marinig din yung side, lalo na ng mga stakeholders. At nung nasa DILG na siya, ganun pa rin yung pananaw niya. Tinry niya na i-bring tong concept na to of people empowerment on a national level.
At ano nga po ba ang nangyayari kapag empowered ang mga mamamayan?
So I think kung pag-empowered yung people, mas maganda yung governance dahil hindi lang lahat nakikinabang but at the same time lahat din accountable sa kung anong nangyayari. Kung ano man yun na pagpasyahan nyo, lahat kayo may stake doon. May ownership kayo doon. Hindi lang yung isa na nagdikta, pero lahat kayo meron. So dahil may ownership ka sa kung ano mang polisiya na yun, you'd really work for that.
At dahil sa ugali niya at pamamalakad niya, sa loob ng unang term niya as mayor, halos dumoble ang income ng mga pamilya sa syudad.
Pagdating ng ikalawang termino ni Mayor Robredo, ang dating third-class city na Naga ay naging first-class na.
Pero hindi ibig sabihin nito na smooth sailing na agad ang lahat para sa alkalde. Nagbanggaan sila ng tito niya, si Luis Villafuerte, dahil umano sa huweteng. Ayon sa Jessie Robredo, his story, Mayor Robredo wanted the illegal numbers game out of the city and fired the chief of police who was Villafuerte's appointee. Allegedly, the police chief was protecting the huweteng operations. At dito na natapos ang magandang pagsasamahan ng mag-anak. Inakusahan din ni Villafuerte si Jessie na Chinese citizen daw ito at nadala pa ang issue sa korte para hindi na makapamahala si Jessie. Obviously, kung hindi ka Filipino citizen, hindi ka pwedeng maging elected official. Pero sa huli, pinanigan ng Commission on Elections ang alkalde.
Pagkatapos ng ikatlong termino ni Jessie noong 1997, he took his master's in public administration at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He was 39 years old by then. Sa panahong ito, tumulong siyang magtayo ng 2 organisasyon. Una, ang Synergia, na ngayon nakikipagtulungan sa higit na 300 local governments sa bansa para ma-improve ang sistema ng edukasyon. At ang pangalawa ay ang Kaya Natin Movement for Good Governance and Ethical Leadership.
Muling nahalal bilang alkalde ng Naga si Jessie at nagsilbi siya mula 2001 hanggang 2010. Kilala siya para sa kanyang chinelas leadership.
Yun yung normal na yung leader mo accessible. Sa sobrang pagka-accessible niya, pwede mo siyang i-text. Hindi mo kailangan makipag-appointment sa kanya. Pwede ka lang actually barge in anytime sa mga concerns mo.
At dahil dito, umani siya ng higit 100 local and international awards. Kasama na rito ang Ramon Magsaysay Award na kilala bilang Nobel Prize ng Asia.
During the administration of the late President Benigno Aquino III, Jessie was appointed Interior Secretary, and Attorney Nina was there to help him do his job well. Kat, alam mo ba kung ano ang ginagawa ng Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG?
Well, when we talk about the DILG, we're talking about the interior side ng government, meaning the police, the penitentiary, the Bureau of Fire Protection, at sakop din ito ang local government, meaning lahat ng LGUs, down to the barangay level.
Wow, ang dami palang sakop nito. So, Attorney Nina, given this, what did a day at work look like for Secretary Jessie and your team? I heard he would give out his cell number to anyone who needed it.
No one day is ever the same. Kasi everyday nagre-respond ka lang sa kung ano-anong nangyayari. Halimbawa, may nag-text ako niya, binubugbog ako ng asawa ko. So, kailangan pumunta doon. And tingnan kung anong nangyayari. Or one time, merong nagsumbong na sa Baclaran, yung mga stalls, illegal talaga siya. So, dapat walang mga nagtitinda doon dahil part yun ng road. Pero at the same time, hindi naman pwede na out of nowhere yung mga police pupunta na lang doon and then iraransak yung mga nagtitinda. May event na pupuntahan dapat si Secretary Robredo. But then nakakuha lang siya ng text message from a vendor na siguro too much na yung ginagawa sa kanila ng police. Meron ng physical violence. Talagang stinap niya. Hindi na siya pumunta dun sa event niya. Pumunta na lang siya dun para responde by himself. At syempre, in a sense, tama yung police dahil mali nga na magtinda ka dun. But at the same time, syempre, dapat within the bounds of law lang din yung gagawin mo. So, minsan, yung mga police magagalit sa kanya na, sir, ina-implement lang namin. Kanino ka ba kakampi? But at the same time, he has this power or magic with him na mapagbabati niya anyone. Sa pag-uusap lang sa magandang dialogue, may explain niya sa police kung ano yung mali sa ginawa niya. At the same time, may explain niya rin sa vendor kung bakit ganun yung naging reaction ni police. So, at the end of the day, okay na sila.
But there's one incident that didn't end as well. Nangyari ito noong August 2010 sa Rizal Park kung saan hinostage ng isang dating polis ang isang tourist bus. Patay ang 8 turistang galing Hong Kong sa shootout sa pagitan ng mga rumeresponding polis at ng hostage taker na namatay din sa engkwentro. Dahil dito, pinagbitiw ng marami si Sec Jessie sa pwesto.
Lahat kami, at that time, actually siguro galit na bakit opisina natin yung sinisisi. But then, ang sabi niya, we work lang. Gawin lang natin kung ano yung kailangan nating gawin. After that, na-feel niya na hindi pwedeng business as usual. Kasi anytime, pwede nga siyang tanggalin sa posisyon. Kasi at that time, hindi rin siya makakuha ng confirmation sa Commission on Appointment. Sinabi niya na at that time na our time is limited here. So, we just do what we have to do and do everything that we can. Kung hanggang saan nakakayanin natin. So, from that time on, lahat ng pwedeng ayusin, lahat ng pwedeng kasuhan, no holds barred na talaga. We don't care about politics. We don't care about kung anong sasabihin ng media. Basta clear kami na ito yung dapat gawin. Alam natin na ito yung tamang gawin. So, we just go for it. Kung hindi nila ma-appreciate, doesn't matter. Kung hindi nila makita na tama yung ginagawa natin, doesn't matter. As long as ginawa natin yung trabaho natin. Dahil anytime, pwede tayong mawala dito.
And it was as if it was a foreshadowing of what would happen 2 years from then. Narinig na natin si Vice President Leni Robredo kanina. But here she is again.
Yung August 18, ano yun? August 18, 1986, yun yung first day of work ko. Kung saan si Jessie yung aking boss. Tapos 26 years after, August 18, 2012, yun din yung day ng plane crash.
Attorney Nina?
Sobrang pangit na parang kung kailan nawala yung tao. Saka lang din siya ma-appreciate ng buong Pilipinas. And then looking at the crowd na pumunta ng Naga, may mga galing pa from ARMM. Talagang from all over yung tao. At lahat sila may bit-bit na kwento. Hindi lang kwento na narinig mo sa kapitbahay mo, but personal na mga experiences with Jessie. Yung mga ka-text niya, lahat ng tinulungan niya. Sa pinaka maliliit na bagay. Pero yun nga, sa kanya walang maliit na bagay kasi.
At ngayong isang dekada nang wala si Secretary Jessie, ano ang isang bagay na natutunan niyo sa kanya na dala-dala niyo pa rin hanggang ngayon?
Isa sa mga pinakatumatak sa akin is yung pag-empower ng mga tao. Lahat ng nasasakupan mo, dapat lahat may boses. Kung halimbawa, ang opisina ay magdedesisyon sa kung ano yung letterhead ng opisina, pinakamalit na bagay na lahat sila dapat may say.
Ganyan-ganyan din ang sinabi ni Sec Jessie mismo noong natanggap niya ang kanyang Ramon Magsaysay Award bilang alkalde. Pakinggan natin ang bahagi ng talumpati niya.
Indeed, yielding power to the people is perhaps my greatest achievement as city mayor. And the most important lesson that I've learned is that public servants should feel obliged to heed the people's will always. As they say, public servants are servant leaders. Their mission is to serve and not to be served. Thank you very much.
Doc Penny, ano yung bagay na gusto niyong malaman ng mga tao tungkol sa Kuya Jessie niyo?
I want them to remember him that Jessie is an ordinary person with good intentions, no? Focus din on what he wants. So, hindi naman kailangan talagang you're somebody na mayaman. Hindi naman kailangan na napakataas ng iyong pinag-aralan, no? Kasi, actually, he did not have the makings of a politician. Sana malaman nila na kahit isang ordinaryong tao ka, you can do great things, no? As long as you have your heart and mind in it. Hindi kailangan you're very special, you're very intellectual, o yun ang gusto ko maiabot sa mga tao about Jess.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Tatiana Maligro. This episode of Bago Ang Lahat was produced by Trisha Aquino and edited by Carl Sayat. It was put together for Teka Teka by Anthony Tabayas and Jill Caro. We hope Secretary Robredo's story inspires you to help in your local communities in whatever way you can, and vote for leaders who you think can bring genuine